What do you think of Brand New Day? I just got back home from watching it and my brain is absolutely fried and full of hype. This movie is an absolute game changer for Spider-Man himself and Marvel going forward. It's a true Spider-Man film, straight to its core, and it deeply, truly understands what makes Peter Parker and Spider-Man work simultaneously. Destin Daniel Cretton made an absolute masterpiece here. The color grading is immaculate, the swinging scenes are hyper realistic and very smooth, and the fight sequences are completely grounded, snappy, and heavy hitting. The movie also portrays a beautiful and powerful message about balance and how you can't really do everything completely alone, which really spoke personally to me, and I know it's gonna hit home for a lot of people watching. The humor in this movie is amazing as well, especially between Spider-Man and the Punisher, but it's finally aged up to where the viewer currently is, I think. It feels like the franchise is trying to grow up with the audience as well, with how the comedy is portrayed, showing that Spider-Man is actually maturing as these movies go along. The Punisher, the Hulk, Spider-Man, MJ, Ned, they're all on their A game when they're acting in this movie. The only character that I really wish who showed up who didn't though would be Daredevil, but honestly, that might have taken away from the solo Spider-Man aspect of the film. He definitely needed to do all of this on his own. The montages are perfect as well, the relationships are packed with energy, and the ending completely guarantees we are getting 2 more movies. There's no way we aren't. I'm honestly so excited to see where they bring the character next. That's about all I can say though, without absolutely spoiling the shit out of the movie, because from this frame forward, we are absolutely spoiling this shit. The movie kicks off with Peter reminiscing about the promise that he made to MJ and Ned and how he was ultimately unable to keep it at the end of No Way Home. They end up showing an elite montage of him fighting different supervillains around the city and building a name for himself just as Spider-Man, while also showing a lot of comic book accurate panels as well as he's fighting the villains. Because of how lonely Peter is though, he's always stalking MJ and Ned's social medias just to see how they're doing without him in their life. Peter has an AI. What? Peter has an AI called Evie, who's practically his only friend for the whole movie. I do need to mention though, this new Spider-Man suit is actually the greatest of all time. No debate. I couldn't stop looking at it on the screen, like the way the red looks so vibrant and combines with the deep blue is absolutely peak. I wouldn't change a single thing about it. We see Peter in his apartment, showing the dark state of his life right now and how truly alone he is at the moment, even though he's got a lot of cool new gadgets and tech. While Peter's out at a store out of costume, he notices Ned and follows him back to his apartment where he's throwing a new housewarming party. Peter looks in Ned's room once he's inside and finds the board that Ned has created, trying to find out the identity of Spider-Man. You really can't take the chair out the guy. There's definitely still a piece of Peter left in his life though, you can tell. And the same with MJ as well. She actually ends up telling her current boyfriend, who isn't Peter, that maybe she's just waiting for something great to come her way. Whole time, greatness is staring at her from across the room, waiting for her. Later on at the party though, Mary Jane gets kissed by her new boyfriend, which ends up to Peter mentally getting overwhelmed and leaving the party that moment. When he leaves the party though, he swings through the pouring rain, not even in costume, and you can really feel the weight of the scene and just how sad he currently is. Once he makes it back to his apartment though, he realizes his body is mutating and he absolutely passes the fuck out. After all this crazy shit, Peter wakes up inside of a literal cocoon. He rips out of it and takes a couple of bad hits, bouncing off the railing of some people's apartments. He ends up catching himself though with brand new organic webbing that he is absolutely disgusted about having. He does need to embrace this new ability though, as he does later, and it's also a key theme of the movie, being okay with change. And here we go. Introducing Jean Grey, Marvel's greatest kept secret. In this movie, Damage Control is the true hidden villain, and they are aggressively targeting Jean to get control of her powers and understand her more. But she and Peter, though, are both looking for the same answer, VMAX, which the fans and I thought was a power-up of some sort, but it's actually the last thing Jean's sister saw before she died. Speaking of all this control, though, the way Peter ends up controlling his mutation is with an inhibitor. An inhibitor basically stops his mutation from happening. He ends up creating this because his hormones are absolutely spiking through the roof on an arachnid level way more than a human, so he's way more spider than man at this point. When this happens to him, his senses are completely overridden and he loses control completely. When he makes this inhibitor chip for himself though, he made a universal one at that, which means that every mutant can have their powers blocked by this inhibitor. By the end of the movie though, Damage Control does get their hands on this new technology that Peter created, so this is going to lead to a lot of future problems. Jean Grey is honestly moving on demon time in this movie though. She possesses the Hulk trying to get answers even. But after the Hulk takes too many heavy blows from the Spider-Man and the Punisher, who's literally shooting the shit out of him, the Hulk completely overtakes Jean and Bruce Banner, taking control of his body again and knocking Jean out. The Hulk and Spider-Man have an absolutely insane fight together, with the Hulk ultimately winning. At the end of the fight, he's got Peter by his head. He's like crushing him as well. The only way that Hulk stops is when Peter screams,
"Stop, Hulk. Bruce. It's me, Peter."
The Hulk actually remembers him. He backs off, throws himself off the building, knocking himself out. That's where that fight ended. Before the fight with the Hulk, Jean Grey took control of Mary Jane as Peter was trying to get her to safety. She ends up fucking with Peter's mind way worse than Mysterio ever fucking did. As I was shedding a tear, thinking that Mary Jane finally remembered who Peter Parker was, out of the blue, Jean Grey smiles and she says, "Gotcha, motherfucker." I mean, she didn't say that exactly, but whole time she acted as Mary Jane and acted like she remembered who Peter was, allowing them to kiss even. She even throws herself off of a fucking building, making Peter catch her, and Mary Jane is knocked unconscious at the end of this. Like, god damn, this movie's so good. A key detail I did notice though, is when Spider-Man is swinging Mary Jane, usually she's like terrified of being swung in the air. When she was controlled by Jean Grey, she had no fear at all when she was being swung through the air. That's a red flag. I'm not gonna lie though. Damage Control is gonna be an absolute problem in the future. They're out here using mind control, making weapons specifically to stop Spider-Man's powers, and they have an entire task force specifically for him if he ever goes out of control. They're gonna end up doing a lot of bad shit. They might even have the Venom symbiote hidden somewhere in a lab, I'm thinking. I mean, if they've gotten the Shocker's tech, they have a bunch of Tony's old shit, they're making weapons against Peter, they have to have the symbiote if it hasn't found Peter by this point. Throughout most of the movie, Peter thinks Jean is the villain though, but once he stops her, he realizes he needs more answers than just taking down a villain. He ends up going to save her while she's being tortured by Damage Control. While all of this is going on though, she ends up evolving her powers, taking control over everyone in the general vicinity. When this happens, it literally creates Spider-Man versus everyone. So it's like 1v everyone at this point. Peter pulls up into Damage Control. He's confronted by the Hand, who's currently being controlled by Jean Grey. They end up fighting. While this happens, she ends up destroying both of his web shooters, which makes him take off his inhibitor chip to use organic weapon. After all of this, she looks at him and asks, "Who are you, Spider-Man or Peter Parker?" Bro responds with the coldest line of the movie. This man says, "I'm both." The literal second that he embraces both aspects of his life, his mutation fully bonds with him, allowing him to control his powers without an inhibitor even. He definitely got a massive power boost in this movie, but I think it's essential for the upcoming movies. Like, there's no way with the old strength he had, he would have been able to stand up against Doctor Doom. Now he definitely has way more of an ability. I think everyone's cooked still, but he has a way better shot now of lasting. Once he gets through the hand, he breaks through the door that Jean is trapped in with the head of damage control. And Peter tries to reason with her, but he ultimately can't. But he lets Jean into his head finally, as she's been trying to get in there the whole movie. When she finally enters though, she sees a memory of Aunt May telling her that she's special. And sometimes you might pay a price for it in life. And sometimes you'll be completely alone, but that doesn't mean you always have to do things on your own. And it doesn't mean you always have to be alone. It honestly was the perfect way to blend Jean's introduction with Peter's ongoing isolation in this movie. They both end up helping each other resolve both of their problems, becoming better versions of themselves through teamwork, and to me, that is Spider-Man at its core. My boy the Punisher don't give a damn about feelings, he just wants results. Earlier in the movie, he did say, if you don't tell me exactly what to do, I'm just gonna do things my way, which means shoot first, think later. He ends up thinking that Jean is still a threat. From a couple buildings away, he lines up a sniper shot, gets a perfect shot, and fires. Peter's the only one able to sense it, especially with his new amplified spider sense. And as a result of this, he ends up jumping in the way and taking the bullet instead. He drops straight to the floor and blood is rapidly spilling behind him. Like, you can see it behind him rapidly, like, pooling up. He keeps telling Jean that it's gonna be alright and that he's fine. He's definitely gonna hear, but to save his life, Jean jumps into his mind and keeps him basically on life support as he gets brought to the hospital by Frank. So in the end, Jean ended up saving his life, and his identity is only revealed to her and the Punisher. And I'm not really mad about that. They aren't gonna expose him, and a lot of other people should know the identity of Spider-Man. They just shouldn't be a snitch about it or tell the whole fucking world. This whole ordeal ends with Frank and Spider-Man sharing a good laugh together. When Spider-Man is finally ready to leave the hospital, Frank puts on his his mask and acts as Spider-Man. That part of the movie was really good to me. They did say though they had to cut Peter's suit open to like treat him the way they needed to, so I hope in the new movie he still has the same suit, minorly upgraded, but I don't want it to change at all. The only change I truly want to happen to this suit is when he gets the symbiote version. The movie ends though on the most positive note imaginable. Peter ends up walking into the same exact shop where he saw Ned earlier, and he sees him again. This time, he smiles at him, he says nothing. He's about to move on when something in him does something different this time. He walks up to Ned, but this time he introduces himself as Peter, not that weird ass guy who pulled up to his house randomly earlier. He says, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna try the old handshake real quick. And when Peter does this, Ned remembers how to do it bar for fucking bar. Once this happens, he looks at Peter and he says, Peter? And that's the end of the movie. I might have left out a few minor things here and there, but this movie gets a certified 9 out of 10 instantly. The only way it goes higher for me though is if MJ remembered him or if he got the symbiote in a mid-credit scene. But honestly, with the MJ thing, I think they're gonna save that for a future movie. But I'm gonna go watch the movie again right fucking now.